The New York State Department of Transportation presents the DOT POD.
And welcome into the DOT POD. I'm Josh Heller.
And I'm Anya Cardos.
And we are delighted to have you joining us.
Before we dive into our conversation today, we wanted to give our listeners a bit of a heads up that some of the topics we're covering today may not be suitable for sensitive or younger audiences. We encourage you to listen at your own discretion.
The New York State Department of Transportation is all about serving our communities, and over the years, we've expanded our focus to encompass a wide range of initiatives that our listeners may not at first associate with transportation. Now, one area where our department has taken the lead on a national level is in the fight against human trafficking.
Today's guests are going to share how DOT is working closely with our partners in law enforcement and the trucking and bus industries to address this crime, and how these efforts are not just raising awareness, they are really resulting in arrests and helping to rebuild lives. We'd like you to please join us in welcoming Jonathan Nicastro, Director of DOT's Motor Carrier Compliance Bureau and Public Transit Safety Board Chief Bus Investigator, and Rich Lindemann, Roadside Inspector Manager with DOT's Office of Modal Safety and Security. Welcome, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Well, as we always do before we get into our main topic today, we want to get to know our guests a little bit better. So, Jonathan, we'll start with you. I guess tell us a little bit about yourself and about what it is you do and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, so it's great to be here. Always look forward to educating fellow department employees and the public on the work we do. So I'm the director of the Motor Carrier Compliance Bureau. The Bureau has oversight over the commercial vehicle transportation industry in this state. That includes about 120,000 motor carriers that are domiciled in this state, 400,000 CDL holders, and about 500,000 commercial vehicles that are registered in the state. And our department is in charge of the regulatory oversight over that program. I started with the department in 1993 as a motor carrier investigator and have been in that field since then, going through my bureau's chain since then. So I'm proud to lead a great team of investigators, roadside inspectors, analysts, and transportation professionals.
And Rich, how about yourself?
I'm the Roadside Inspection Manager, so I manage the program for commercial motor vehicle inspections. I've only really had two jobs my whole entire life. So I started off at a trucking company back in 1994 as maintenance, and I slowly moved up the ranks there, and I left as the manager. I came over here as a motor carrier investigator like Jonathan started as, and I moved up through here, and now I'm in my current role.
Well, today we're talking about a tough subject, but it's a really important one. And we've been hearing for a while now about human trafficking. It's unfortunately something that's existed for a long time. Let's take a look at the data that I compiled here. According to the U.S. State Department, an estimated 27 million people across the globe are exploited for labor, various services, and commercial sex. The victims, they comprise a wide range. They're boys, girls, it can be men, women who are lured into trafficking by the use of violence, manipulation, and even false promises of work or romance, love. It's a very harsh reality, unfortunately, but DOT is uniquely positioned to be a force for good, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Both of you, can you explain how our department is working to make this positive change?
Yeah, so human trafficking is the traffickers use our transportation network to foster their business. For instance, they will send their victims on bus lines and trains and planes to move them around to where they need them. So, for instance, in the case of labor trafficking, they'll put them on buses that they may own or not own, or they'll use the public transit system to move what they consider to be assets around the state. Now, we're in a position, because we're out on the roads every day, checking trucks and checking buses in commercial use, that we are in an ideal position to identify possible cases of human trafficking. And all of our folks that do that work have been trained to look for those signs of human trafficking.
What are some of the initiatives that we're currently pursuing? Like, how exactly are we collaborating with our various stakeholders? I'm talking about law enforcement, members of the trucking industry, the busing industry. What exactly are we doing right now?
So I'll kind of give you the high level, and then Rich can kind of fill in on some of the work we've done on this. So we have partnered with TAT, which was formerly known as Truckers Against Trafficking. It was a group that was formed to tackle this problem in the transportation sector, but they've since renamed themselves TAT because they're not just truckers. It's in the transit industry, the energy industry. So TAT has been a massive resource for us on the training front and the partnership front. We're also members of the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance. I am on the Human Trafficking Committee. So I get a lot of intelligence through TAT and that committee on human trafficking, and we collaborate with internal stakeholders in New York, such as the New York State Police and local police partners, along with partners in Canada and Mexico to do national details on human trafficking. So I think Rich can kind of maybe articulate a couple of those details that we've done.
Yeah, it's usually in January, and it's just we one entire week we focus entirely on human trafficking and labor trafficking, like he was saying. We target motor carriers that have passengers that maybe don't fit. We bus companies. We educate the passengers. We give out wallet cards, stickers for the windshields. We print a graphic on our driver vehicle inspection reports, which is a report after we complete our inspection. It has our findings on it. And we put a graphic on that just to kind of keep everybody, their head in the game.
And then one of the other things that we do on this front is when we do industry outreach events, which we do quite often, we will incorporate trafficking into those educational events we do. I'll give you a for instance. At about 2 years ago at the New York State Transit Association's conference here in Albany, I brought in TAT and we did a presentation, the TAT representative and I, on trafficking in the transit industry. And we gave resources to the transit industry on how their drivers can be trained to identify possible trafficking victims. And it's a difficult topic to train on. It's a hard topic to train on. How many people out there have taken that leap to report something that they think is suspicious? Most people are afraid to do that. For an example, and this true story, I have a gentleman in a truck with a young lady in a truck, and I was able to separate the gentleman from the victim. And I did that through my roadside inspection by asking him to open the trailer door. And while he walked to the back of the truck, I was able to approach a young lady and say, "Are you okay?" And she didn't want to talk.
Really?
She was looking down, all the signs of someone who was hiding something.
Yeah, definitely.
And I kind of tried to caution her that I was, there. If she needed something, I could help her. And it turned out she wasn't being trafficked necessarily here, but she was someone who hitchhiked, picked up a truck driver at a rest area and got into the truck days earlier and was not allowed to leave the truck. So I was able to make that separation, get her out of the truck, and kind of solve that problem. That's a type of leap that we're able to take. And if we have a suspicion, we have the capabilities of making the reports. We work closely with the New York State Police and other local police partners. So we can make the report right on site, or we can call the hotlines and make that report.
You mentioned, educating others. You and our teams can only be in so many places at so many times, whereas, being able to educate those who are out there all the time, seeing these things, what to look for. I mean, that has to have a huge impact because they have eyes that we just physically can't have and can see things and recognize things and report things that there's just no way that, DOT would be able to do.
Correct. And if you go to, let's say TAT's website or other advocacy agencies' websites, you'll see these stories about how a truck driver in a rest area noticed suspicious behavior and was able to thwart that by making a phone call. So it's as simple as making a phone call. Those reports are followed up on. There's no requirement for anyone to stick around or do anything or take action, but getting that awareness out to drivers in the transportation sector is huge. They're all over the place. So they know what is out of place in the rest areas that they frequent or the truck stops that they frequent.
Can you talk about what people are learning now? What are drivers learning now, like commercial carrier drivers? What is this industry learning, and what are we learning in general? What are some of these educational efforts that are going on that are really broadening our perspective?
So a big takeaway is that labor trafficking is very prolific, especially with new arrivals to the country. Whether they're legal or illegal is irrelevant, but it's mostly in the illegal immigration world where they pay a fee to get into the country, and then they pay off that debt to their trafficker. And that debt is usually indentured servitude. They're providing a service, let's say, and we've seen this in the bus industry, where they're driving a bus, except they're not getting paid. They're being allowed to stay in the country and being basically given survival, the means to survive.
And they're probably too afraid to say anything because of that situation.
Well, they're absolutely too afraid. And in the case, and I've worked on major cases with federal partners in criminal investigations. It's a conspiracy. It's a scheme that they have to move labor, cheap labor, free labor around. Mostly the ones I've dealt with were on the East Coast, I-95 corridor. And it comes up to Albany. It comes up to all over the place. It used to be the I-95 corridor, but it's really everywhere now, where they'll use the transportation system to move these folks around, and it's kind of in plain sight, but most people don't see it until they listen to this podcast, and then they're going to see something now that is going to make them a little bit suspicious. So I'll give you another example of this. If you see a crew of, let's say a construction crew, and there's 8 of them jammed into the cab of a truck that seats 2, that may be a sign of trafficking. Now, it may not be. It may be just a lousy truck owner who just throws all his guys in the truck, or it was a lousy decision on the part of the workers. But oftentimes those workers are, they're not being paid the minimum wage, put it that way.
So if you see something like that, pick up the phone and make a call.
Make a call. And we would, on the roadside inspection front, we would cite the company for for having too many people in the truck because there's no seatbelts.
Right. And that's what I was going to ask you, Rich. As a roadside inspection manager, you have inspectors who are out there. They are also identifying some of this activity as well. Yep.
Yeah. One thing that when Jonathan was talking about the survivors, it made me think of something. We do a yearly training with all of our people, all the local police we work with, and the state police. We have a representative from TATCOM, and also they bring a survivor, and they tell their story, and that's it's very, very powerful.
I feel like and Jonathan, you mentioned this when you said, a lot of people, it's in plain sight, but you don't see it. Rich, when you're talking to your employees, I mean, you have to almost convince them that this is happening. I mean, for a lot of us, it's out of sight, out of mind, because we don't want to think that this is happening, but it is happening at an alarming rate. And, we don't see it because we don't want to see it. And, you need to kind of almost retrain yourself to be able to see it, to understand and appreciate the fact that, no, this is a problem. This is currently going on, not someplace else, not with other people, but here with us.
Yep. And when we're going through that training and they're telling us the signs and things to look for, and you're like, hey, that happened. Maybe that was this. You don't realize it at the time, but...
What are some of those signs that you've been trained now to look for?
Like Jonathan was saying, people that don't fit together. Not dressed for the weather. A young lady, if she's not dressed appropriately for where she is, if he answers all her questions, things like that. No cell phone.
Yeah, I'll just tack on to that. There's been times where I've had drivers in the bus industry in New York City actually run from the bus when we're doing the inspection. So they'll leave. They're afraid of getting caught. They think we're immigration or something like that. They don't want to get in trouble, so they run. You will see they have everything they own with them. They'll have a backpack with everything they own.
In my former job, in my former career, I was a reporter, and I also spoke with victims of human trafficking, and it astounded me because it changed my perspective and my understanding on who the victims are. They're generally our homegrown kids, people in our own backyard, and the people who are forcing them into this line of work, for lack of a better word, are being seen by their family members as like boyfriends, safe people, and they're not. And so this work is really important. I wanted to take it a step further and ask you, have you seen this lead to arrests?
So we've anecdotally, we've heard about it. Things that we've been involved with have resulted in arrests, but directly, these arrests don't happen when we're doing roadside inspections because an investigation needs to occur. So I think this was last summer, Rich. We had a carnival ride operator in the Buffalo area. One of our supervising inspectors and his team was checking vehicles, and again, sign of human trafficking. They started to pop up, and it was a driver without a driver's license. And when we got his information, I think he may have had a suspended license. And then we got further investigation. He didn't have his DOT medical card. And then we found that the vehicle wasn't registered and he had other safety violations. And it turned out that this driver, I think he had some credentials that made us believe he was someone else. He was hiding his name. And he was a sex offender that was supposed to be in jail. Wow. And he skipped out on, his hearing, and he had an arrest warrant. So that was all kind of detective work based on a roadside inspection and some signs of safety violations that led us to this conclusion.
It just goes to show you how something small can lead to something really big.
Yeah, and that goes in the world of drug interdiction. We know the signs of someone who's trying to, transport drugs, and they get caught on the little stuff. They hide the drugs really well, but then the driver they use to drive the truck doesn't have a driver's license. So you get caught up in this driver's license issue, and it results in us asking questions, looking around, and then finding extra information.
So anytime, you're doing an inspection or dealing with something where there is a suspicion of nefarious acts, there has to be a concern for the safety of the inspectors. I know the inspections oftentimes, if not always, have police presence. Talk about the importance of that, because you're dealing with potential criminal entities, and safety of our staff as well is paramount.
Yep, all of our folks, we always work with law enforcement hand in hand when we set up our road checks, so they're always on site. And if we suspect something like that, we report it to them, and we give them everything we got, and they kind of take it from there. And that one that Jonathan was describing that last summer, that was kind of the rare circumstance where we seen it through. We saw something, we followed through on it, reported it, and actually made an arrest, and we saw the whole process through. Normally, we give them everything we got, and they take it, and an investigation. We don't see the end result. I'm sure there's an end result. We just don't always hear about it.
Yeah, I had a case long time ago on Long Island where two gentlemen in a truck with all the signs of them doing something wrong. They were, Their hours of service records were all falsified. Everything was wrong with the truck and the drivers. And we did a drug interdiction search with the police department, and it took hours. So that the work that we do, in fact, I get reached out to all the time by police departments looking for our assistance in some of the work they do. And I was talking to one of our partners at Port Authority Police last week, and this week they're going to the Port Authority bus terminal just to do human trafficking work. So they're going to, make sure that all the awareness signage is up in the bus terminal, and they're going to actually look for people possibly human trafficked. So they'll just go into that terminal and look for possible victims. And one thing to note is when you deal with the victims, oftentimes they're not cooperative. They don't act like victims. They are scared and they don't want to get in trouble with their trafficker. So they're often not cooperative. And it could take an officer that's investigating one of these cases many, many times of interviewing that person and dealing with that person in order to get them the help that they need. So it's a difficult field for law enforcement to help the victims out.
Back in January, which was, as you mentioned, National Human Trafficking Awareness Month, the TAT Championship Award being given to the state of New York. Talk about that and what that entails, and the pride you guys must feel in that recognition.
Well, yeah, it's a big deal, and I'll receive that award on behalf of the department and actually the whole state at the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance conference in Denver in September, and we were featured in the annual report in TAT as being an outstanding state. So us winning this is it's a big deal. We've done a lot of outreach work, and we've had help doing it. For instance, DMV has awareness information in their CDL manual. They've broadcast the awareness information in their DMV offices on their screens. We've had our police partners help us do the outreach pamphlets to the drivers. I've had the Governor's Traffic Safety Committee rep help us with that. We've had the Public Transit Association of New York help us with that. We've incorporated the training into our public transportation operator training called Bus Accident Investigation for identifying safety hazards. So we're getting the message out big time. This year, we're going to be hosting what's called coalition builds with TAT that is going to bring all the major stakeholders in the state and trafficking together in an effort to really do a push on awareness and getting some work done on it. Things of that nature have gotten us the award. It's really checking some boxes. It was a couple of check boxes on some things that we needed to do to have a good program here on the awareness front. And that, the little things, putting signs up at our rest areas, getting some things on websites, putting the logo and the contact information on our driver vehicle examination reports that we issue 120,000 of those a year, handing out the wallet cards, having the training done in this state. We even are starting some LMS training on this, that we have some modules that we have gotten from TAT.
I'm curious about sharing information on training for these kind of initiatives, for recognizing the signs of trafficking, whether it's labor, sex trafficking. Do we also partner or connect with other states and talk with them? I know also we've got a joint task force within New York State. Does that also comprise other states and information sharing, things like that?
Yeah. So through the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, we have that interoperability on training. But Rich has been working. It was a project. But explain to them what the LMS packages that we have.
We got a package from TAT. It took some time, but the state learning management system, the LMS system, just underwent a revamp here in January, and we were able to get all the TAT training modules that TAT provided to us into it. And now we make it a requirement for all of our inspectors and investigators to go through that training, and it's a robust training. It's You watch some videos, you answer some, there's tests on it. You got to answer correctly, or you don't move on to the next module, and you got to stay focused, and it's very informative.
So I believe that LMS is available to anyone right now, Rich?
I believe so.
Now I've been socializing that training internally in motor carrier compliance before I make a recommendation, maybe to expand that through the department. It's tough training. It's tough training. To listen to some of these victim advocates, it's tough. So the training may not be for everybody, but at a certain point, we're able to roll this out to the department.
Even prior to that, at this point, what kind of things would you recommend? Would you want people, whether they're in DOT or not, just listening, to look for, to know, so that if they see something, they know what to do. They know that they can help with this.
911 is a phone number that should be utilized. It's there for a reason. So call 911. Now, you can also call the National Human Trafficking Hotline and report information there, and they will then follow up with the local police jurisdiction on that intelligence. So if it's not happening in front of you right now, National Human Trafficking Hotline. If it's happening in front of you right now, 911.
And we'll have the number for the National Human Trafficking Hotline in the description, so you can make sure you have that handy if need be. Well, I want to, before we wrap up, just say thank you to you both and for the entire department. I mean, obviously it's a tough subject. It's a tough assignment, but it's certainly necessary, and obviously you have to take a lot of pride in being able to help in these situations. And I speak for Anya, want to just convey our thanks for spearheading this and for really making this an effective way of combating something that, again, we don't like to think about, but maybe we need to. Maybe we need to more.
Yeah. And, like I said, the partner organization, TAT, has made it easy for us to get this information out. So, they've been able to, they gave us kind of the pathway for it. And for us to, deliver the program, we're already delivering a major program. So inserting this into our normal programs is really not a heavy lift. So we're happy to do it. It's for a good cause, and as you all know, it's a national issue. It's been in the news, and you can almost see, and people will now see all the arrests that happen every week. They'll notice it after hearing this podcast. It goes on all the time.
And again, in the description, we'll have the number for the National Human Trafficking Hotline. But again, as Jonathan said, 911 is an easy way to make sure that if you see something, you say something. So again, thank you both for coming in and talking to us. But thank you again for the work that you and the entire department does in combating this. We really, really do appreciate.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Well, that's just about going to do it for us here from the DOT POD. Thanks all for listening, wherever and however you may be doing so. You want to reach out to us, podcast@dot.ny.gov. So for Anya, I'm Josh. Until next time, we'll be right here on the DOT POD.